And coming to the U.S. this last year, boy, we've hit the wall with the battle to start a new church, and defining what that puppy is. And too many troubles. I don't want to talk about them too much, but that's the
Amen.
battleground in the West is defining what church is and saying, okay, do you got new churches? In Asia, it just seems a lot more straightforward, partly because there's nothing around. There's no believers in a particular town or village, and so obviously you're going to make a new church. But here, where we've got a lot of territorialism, church on every other corner, and people trying to hang on to their turf, it's a struggle to start new churches. So if the goal is just start new churches, it might be a long time till you can put a lot of numbers on the page, but that is solid in terms of what we're shooting for. So let's just go for church straight out the gate, even though we've got some challenges here in the West. I don't have money circles on the paper. In fact, I got a few bubbles that just popped.
We got a bunch of those.
First step to starting a church is canceling one.
So we did circles diagramming with some tribal villagers in northeast Cambodia, and they thought they were balloons. When they saw the drawing, they said, "Oh, they're balloons." And so they drew the balloons, and then they had a vertical scale of the years. And they said, well, we launched the balloon in this year, and it's floating up, and if it exploded at any point, then they put a pop at that year. And the ones that were still rising were still alive today. It was really interesting. But you got the drawing just the same. They thought the circles were all balloons, and that was so clever.
So, Steve, in light of what we defined as a generation, it seems like one of the problems in the West is there's a centralized pull where a fairly charismatic pastor is able to keep seeing everybody every Sunday. Is it possible, or do you believe it's possible, to see generational growth coming out of existing traditional churches? And it just kind of helps me in an application. You just mentioned you're going to go to, I think, a traditional church to do some training, or should we just say start with the lost? Kind of, what is your thinking on that, and how should we approach that?
Yeah, this is one of my biggest frustrations this year that I've been in America, is seeing very little traction with mobilizing existing churches to plant new churches. And I don't have any answers for you there. In fact, I'm trying to find people that have had more success at talking to existing churches and seeing them get going. I think in theory, healthy elephant churches can create a space for simpler reproducing church. I can see how that could happen. I've written little papers on it, but I just haven't personally had any success with it. So the church where I'm doing outreach, I'm just hoping for a couple of people that will go make disciples and continue the outreach in the apartment complexes right near that church. I'm not even hoping to convert that church over to being a church planting church. But hopefully someone out there is going to figure out how to get the Western church reproducing and creating the space for the simple reproducing church. Our buddy Troy Cooper has seen some good traction with that at Family Church in West Palm, Florida, and I know he's done that, and there's others. But personally, as I've gone around and talked to lead pastors, and none of them have taken off with it. None of them have really moved into starting new churches that plant churches.